Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to show you guys how I do my at-home PRP microneedling using this Rain PRP kit. I started by collecting a sample of my blood using this 21 gauge needle. So I usually collect 2 test tubes worth of blood, and then I centrifuge the blood at 3000 RPM for 10 minutes to be able to separate the plasma from my blood. This is my blood centrifuging. You can see that I have set it to 3000 RPM. I'm going to leave it here for 10 minutes. And once it is all done, this is what the centrifuged blood looks like. So you can see my plasma at the top, the yellow part separated from the red blood cells. So that is what you want your sample to look like. So these are my 2 test tubes worth of plasma that we're going to use today. I make sure to keep them upright just to keep the plasma separated from the red blood cells, and then I collect the plasma using this syringe that comes with the Rain PRP microneedling kit. I also go ahead and numb my face with this 5% lidocaine cream, and I apply cling film over it to make it work faster. And whilst the numbing cream is doing its thing, I go ahead and I wipe down all of my equipment with this 70% alcohol cleansing wipe. So I wipe down the 18-pin cartilage that I'm going to use, and I also wipe down my Dr. Pen MS8 microneedling pen. After 60 minutes, I go ahead and I remove the cling film and I wash my face, making sure to remove all the numbing cream. I also put my gloves on just to keep the environment sterile, and attach my cartilage head to my microneedling pen so that it's ready to go. These are the PRP samples I will be using to microneedle on my face, and I have set the speed to 6 on my microneedling pen. So I usually always start on my forehead. I make sure to apply an ample amount of serum because you want to make sure that the surface is very slippy so that the microneedling pen can just slide over your skin. I always start in a vertical direction, so I cover every section of my forehead. I do 1/2 at a time, so I go down vertically and then I go across horizontally, making sure that in between I am reapplying the PRP sample to keep the area slippery so that the pen can keep gliding over the skin. And I also make sure not to drag the pen across, so after I reach the end of the section, I pick the pen up and I start again. Again, apply more PRP just to make sure that the area is nice and slippery, especially because the PRP dries very quickly. And then after I've gone vertically and horizontally, I then go in tiny circles across the section again, just to make sure that we have created enough micro injuries to stimulate that collagen production. And I take my time, I go very slowly, making sure that I cover every section of that part of my forehead. Again, I'm very diligent with applying the PRP because we need to keep the surface very slippery to avoid the pen snagging on the skin. And then on the areas where I have some prominent hyperpigmentation, I stamp the pen just to concentrate the micro injuries in that area, because we want the skin to regenerate and for the hyperpigmentation to fade. And then once I've done that for 1/2 of my forehead, I go to the next half of my forehead. For the sake of the video not being too long, I have sped it up to 2x, but in real time we are going a lot slower. As you can see, I do the first pass horizontally, and then I do the second pass vertically, and then I do a third pass going in tiny circles just to make sure I cover every part of this half of my forehead. And again, I am very diligent with applying the PRP in between every pass just to make sure that the surface is kept very slippery. And again, once the 3 passes are done, I then stamp all over the areas where I have more hyperpigmentation, and then I move on onto my cheeks and underneath my eyes, which I like to stamp. And make sure to be very careful underneath your eyes because the area here is very sensitive. And then on my cheeks again, we do the first pass horizontally. Making sure to reapply the plasma when I feel like the slip is going. And I also like to stamp on my smile lines as well, just because the stamping creates more micro injuries, which stimulates more collagen production. And then we do a second pass horizontally. And again, the video is sped up, so in real time we are going much slower. And then the third pass, we are doing our tiny circles just to make sure that we have covered every part of the side of my face. And we have basically created enough micro injuries so that the collagen production can be stimulated. And now we move on to the top of my lips, but I stamp, I do some tiny circles just to make sure I cover all that area. And then I move on to under my lips, and then I do some tiny circles here. And as you can see, in between, I am just making sure that I am very diligent with applying my plasma, just to make sure that I'm keeping the area very slippery, because again, the plasma dries very quickly. And now we move on to my nose, and again, I do some horizontal passes here with some stamps. I stamp the areas where it's a bit more bony, so it's quite hard to like move horizontally or vertically, so the stamping makes it a bit easier. And then we move on to the other side of my face, and again we do some horizontal passes. We stamp underneath the eyes, make sure that we're careful because the area here is very sensitive. Reapplying the plasma as needed. And then I go ahead and I do my horizontal passes on this side of my face. And again, this video we are going 2 times faster, so in real time we are going much slower. But as you can see, I stamp on my smile lines on this side as well, just because I have some prominent smile lines. And then we go vertically. As you can see, I have some hyperpigmentation here, so I stamp just to create more micro injuries to stimulate collagen production that will help fade this hyperpigmentation a lot faster. And then I move to my neck, and then I have to be extra careful here just because the neck can be a bit trickier, but I feel like as long as I keep the surface very slippery, the pen can just glide along very nicely. And I add in some stamps as well. This is what my skin looks like when I'm all done. You can see the PRP has pretty much dried on my skin, but I usually leave it like this overnight and I wash it off in the morning with a very gentle cleanser. I also keep my skincare very simple for the next 7 days, no actives, just to make sure that my skin is able to heal nicely. And yeah, in the next couple of weeks, your skin should definitely heal. You should see more glow, the hyperpigmentation will be fading, and your skin will just look better overall. Thank you for watching. Bye! Yeah.